pandemic, the effect it has had on Nigeria's HIV response, and other topical issues in the health sector as regards HIV and AIDS. This interview is live and is also on our Facebook page. You can visit the Punch page at any time. It will be stored there. You can always go there at any time to check, and you could send in your questions too. Thank you, DG, for coming on our program today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let me start with the very first question. The COVID-19 pandemic, it has been on for about 15 months now. I think March was when Nigeria recorded its first case. And how has it affected the HIV response in Nigeria as a whole?
It is noteworthy to know that COVID-19 affected HIV response very minimally at the beginning. However, after the first month and second month, HIV response come back to life. And this is one thing that Nigeria has done, which no other country in the world has done in the face of COVID-19, simply because all other countries globally, especially in the 52 countries that are supported by the United States, affected in one way or the other. Some profoundly, some is one country that stood out. And after now, Nigeria is commended, for what we have done to turn around, simply because the HIV infrastructure were there on ground when the COVID-19 struck, and eventually we realized that given the fact that we are dealing with two epidemics at the same time, and we are providing infrastructural support, it becomes necessary to us to look inward and see how do we create a kind of a survival strategy. How do we make sure, we're not affected and our program is not, setback. We don't experience kind of a setback that we fear could happen if we let go, all our services to COVID-19 response without thinking of how to manage the HIV response. So that we did very well, to the extent that on an annual basis, we identify and bring to treatment about 50,000 individuals every year. But during that period, and still the pandemic is ongoing, for the last 18 months, we were able to bring to treatment people who have not been linked to treatment and who have not been identified in the past, 350,000.
Wow. We identified 350,000 people during the pandemic.
During the pandemic, the last 18 months, yes. And we bring them to treatment. So this is something that Nigeria has done that no other country has ever done.
The 350,000 you spoke about, is it the federal government, those ones which the government is taking care of their treatment? Foreign donors are also playing a part?
Okay, so there is only one HIV program now in the country, and that HIV program is the national HIV program we have. Both the donor agencies that are supporting us and us have aligned, and whatever we do it as a single program. And let me give you an example. The United States is supporting treatment at facility level, largely, and the Global Fund is supporting not much treatment at the facility level, but is supporting commodity. They're making purchase of drugs, they're making purchase of consumables, and they're making them available to the government of Nigeria. And we are putting it in a single pool where the United States government that is at the facility level and is providing these services at the hospital level can access it and use it. Likewise, the government of Nigeria is using its money to buy commodities and make these commodities available, as well as the logistics to distribute the commodities. So it's a single national program.
Interesting. It's quite impressive. You said last year that the number of persons who died of AIDS-related causes within the first 6 months of 2020 was about 20,500. What is the number of persons who died of HIV-related or AIDS-related disease?
That number is an estimation. It's not we believe half the disease and they're out there. We see these are the ingredients we put together, some of them, to make that estimate. However, that estimate will change, and especially for the 2020, we're confident that it has even changed, but we're in the process of running the models and finding out where the estimate should be this time, given the large number over the last 2 years that we have brought onto treatment, and now they're taking this treatment. And when somebody takes this medication, the medication does two things. It prevents the virus from leaving this person to affect another person. So it keeps the virus within the individual. And at the same time, it prevents the virus from making this individual sick, causing AIDS, and killing the person. So it prevents death, and also it prevents spread of HIV.
A lot of persons living with HIV last year, they complained about how their treatment was affected by the pandemic, especially during the lockdown period, where a lot of facilities were converted into isolation centers. So one would have thought that it would increase the number of AIDS-related deaths. So are you saying that you think the opposite actually happened last year?
This closure, there are selected facilities and it was temporary. Temporary in the sense that it did not last long. Some of it was just 1 month and some of it was 2 months. And that period is not enough, to produce a substantial impact, given that most of the patients, now we give them drugs for 3 months. So even if there is no lockdown, we don't expect to see them in those facilities or hospitals over this period.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so according to several statistics, out of 9 million pregnant women in Nigeria, only about half of that get antenatal care, and only about 2.8 million are on HIV, are actually tested for HIV. With millions of Nigerian women giving birth outside of health facilities, without knowing their status, Nigeria now has the highest rate of children being born with HIV. What is your agency doing to stem the tide?
If you're following us, you've seen what we've done. We've convened a meeting that involves stakeholders. Stakeholders include the Ministry of Health, implementing partners, and everyone that has a stake in HIV program implementation here in Nigeria. What we did was to discuss the issue of PMTCT and look at access. How do we get to have access, to about 6 million pregnant women every year who we don't have access to, and we don't know whether they know their status during that pregnancy or not. And it is this number that we don't have access to every year, and they don't seem to know about their status, ended up giving us that are born with HIV. Simply because if the mother doesn't know she has HIV, there is no way she will make effort, or the family will make effort to prevent HIV in the mother from getting onto the baby. So this is the campaign. We are at 350,000 new cases and register them for medication and treatment. If the same strategy will be following, we realize community plays a very important role. We are no longer going to restrict ourselves to the hospitals and facilities where this antenatal care are given. No, we are going to go out to the community. We are going to reach them halfway, either within the community or inside their home, to offer them these services, either directly or through agents that usually go to the home and provide services like traditional birth attendants and other places that people, utilize as alternatives to health facilities to deliver. We will use those religious places of worship and the rest of it that have where deliveries are taken to make sure people have access to HIV service and to make sure pregnant women know their status during that pregnancy, in order to ensure that their unborn baby is born safe without HIV.
In Ondo State a few years ago, there was a program known as the Agbebiye Initiative, whereby traditional birth attendants were given money. They were paid to refer pregnant women to hospitals so that to reduce the maternal and child mortality rates and also the rate of HIV and all that. And it was actually commended by World Bank. Unfortunately, so many other states and even so many other states have not been able to replicate this. Why is that? Does NACA encourage what's on this sort of initiative, and what can be done to ensure that it's given a national spread?
That is exactly what we're looking at, all these initiatives that have worked in the past and that are working now, that fits every state, or we can have multiple models, for multiple states we have. Whichever way, at the end of this analysis, happens to be the way to go, is the way we are going to go, but we are not wasting time. We want to see action. We want to see our staff and our agents out in the community looking for pregnant women. And we want to make sure that this kind of media and this kind of coverage you people are providing, gets to the right people and they get to hear. If your wife is pregnant, one thing that you need to do and make sure is to test her, find out her HIV status. Let her know about her status and make sure if she has HIV, that HIV doesn't get onto your unborn baby. This is the responsibility of all parents, and not only the health service provider, but all parents and community. We must make effort to unborn baby, because failure to stop it will mean we are making HIV for the generations to come, and we are not making effort to end AIDS, because these children that are born now have just begun their life. 70 years, 80 years. For their active life, they will spend 40, 50 years actively spreading HIV. Why should we do that if we have the means to stop it?
You just spoke about the means to stop it now, which, of course, when you're looking at the means to stop the spread of HIV, you talk about financing as well. Nigeria relies largely on PEPFAR and other about 80% of its HIV funding, if I'm correct. With attention now shifting to COVID-19 and all that, how would NACA, how would Nigeria cope with its HIV funding?
That is a challenge. And we have realized this challenge even before COVID-19. The CACOVID model that is supporting COVID-19 from the business sector initiative, is modeled out of the HIV Trust Fund model. And this is something that we conceived even before the COVID-19. And this is something that we hope to launch somewhere this year to ensure that we are actively engaging the private sector in terms of giving their best, to one, control HIV epidemic in Nigeria, and second, to sustain the control after we've achieved it. Apart from the private sector, we are also engaging the state governments, because 80% of the patients we are talking belong to state government facilities. Almost 90% of facilities in Nigeria where HIV patients are treated are state-owned facilities. And certainly over 80% of human resources for health that are providing these services at these facilities belong to state governments. So it makes, it will not make any sense if we have a sustainability plan without state governments in the driver's seat. So this is the effort we're making. We want to make sure that the state government are taking up this responsibility and they are owning it up. And we are going to support the states. We are making a plan to make sure that the drug that the patients take at the facility are provided centrally. And the states continue to help us with, one, the facility, two, with the health workers, which they have been doing actually, that supports, and three, with logistics and coordination. This is one area that if we got the state to support logistics and coordination, we will say in terms of sustainability and get ready to own it as a nation, we are in good state. Since one, we brought in the private sector. Two, the government at the center is doing its best. The federal government has doubled its allocation for HIV, and especially the drugs that we promised to buy for the 100,000 people. We fulfilled that promise. It is there now. We brought it into the country. So with this renewed commitment by federal government, we need state to match the federal government commitment, so that going forward, we have a HIV response that is nationally owned. We know PEPFAR is not going to remain forever, and we know even the Global Fund may not remain forever. So for the time being, since we have the privilege of having PEPFAR and Global Fund, we will use whatever avenue we have to put structures in place so that by the time we are preparing, or PEPFAR is preparing to exit, we are in good hands.
Are there mechanisms in place for accountability? The reason I ask is that, in 2016, Global Fund alleged that about $3.8 million was stolen by Nigeria health workers and consultants. And the government had promised at the time that, the money will be refunded and those who were found wanting will be brought to book. That was 2016, about 5 years ago, and we haven't had any updates. Has anyone even been punished at all about the Global Fund issue?
So sometimes there are certain things when they happen, government doesn't just take decision alone, because the part of the decision that government will take on its side is to make sure that that staff no longer belongs to government and is no longer part of the system. The second thing is the issue of the court. Whenever this issue become legal and before the court, you don't get to make any pronouncement, and you don't have any decision to make until and unless the decisions that are made by the court. So, but on the side of the measures that need to be put in place to make sure that we don't have recurrence, we're making that effort. And I'm happy to let everyone know that at the moment, the way the Global Fund program is implemented, not only in NACA, but nationally, is such that you have audits that are concurrently done with program implementation. One, on the side of the government, we have project management unit. This project management unit is hired by Global Fund. They work with us and they implement Global Fund projects through government. This is one. So while they're implementing these programs, the implementation itself is audited. There is what we call the GFA, Global Fund fiduciary agents, that are based in Germany, but they have their agents here in Nigeria. What they do is they review all payments before they are made to make sure, one, they are genuine, two, there are no frauds, three, there is no misappropriation. After that payment is made, there are additional agents that look at payments after they are done to make sure that if there are or there were mistakes or there were errors that were not caught up by the initial prepayment fiduciary agents, these guys, they're called local funding agents, are able to catch up these errors or catch up these frauds, and then now alert the Global Fund. After that, there are auditors, hired auditors that on annual basis, audit Global Fund accounts here and Global Fund projects. And this, one of it is Deloitte, Akintola, Williams, and Co. This agent is an independent agent. They audit and they give Global Fund report. Aside from that, the Global Fund country team, which is based in Geneva, is also involved in the implementation. So there is just no way under this arrangement that we will get a repeat of what we have had before. Not possible at all.
The Senate was complained last week, about NACA refusing to submit its financial statements and the details of donations from the Global Fund. Oh, why is that?
So that is what I'm referring to miscommunication. Miscommunication in the sense that NACA's books are open to virtually everyone who wants to take a look at it. And not only the Senate that has the authority or the Auditor General Office that has a legal authority to look at it, even individuals that want to find out how Global Fund money are received in NACA and how they are spent, they can get this information not only from NACA, they can get it from the country coordinating mechanism that oversee the Global Fund nationally. They can get it from the Global Fund country team in Geneva. And of course, they can get it from the project monitoring unit, which are all part of Global Fund here in NACA or in any other implementing partner that is here in Nigeria. It is good to know that the money that comes to Nigeria from Global Fund is money belonging to Nigeria, not to individuals. And this money can be managed by either government or private entities. There are private entities right now that receive Global Fund money and they implement it on behalf of the government of Nigeria. It is important when we are looking at this and when we are looking at broader accountability to look at virtually every implementer and to see the total amount of money that comes and how much of it goes to the government itself or government agents and how much of it goes to private entities and how well this money is spent even by the private entities because it belongs to the government, it belongs to the people of Nigeria. The private entities are agents that are selected by the Global Fund to implement on behalf of the government of Nigeria.
I got a message from NEPON, the Network of Persons Living with HIV. And they said that last year, some drugs that were meant for them were used for treating persons with COVID-19. And they felt shortchanged. Why was this done exactly?
It wasn't only in Nigeria that was done. Okay. At the beginning of COVID-19, people were looking for all sorts of remedies because then there was no drug for COVID-19. And people were trying different types of drugs to see whether there may be some luck, with some of them to have some kind of relief on patients with COVID-19. And then, of course, there were all sorts of theories that came in. And one of it was that some of the drug, especially the second line drug for HIV, may work well for patients that have COVID. And, it is a matter of life and death. You have the drugs, you can't deny somebody who is dying out of COVID, because of somebody who is alive and probably will continue to remain alive for the next years that only God knows. So because of that, because this guy come and, has COVID and need this medication, you take and give and see how you replace it. And we did it, we get the medications replaced, and eventually we get to identify or to find out that these medications are not even working for COVID. And since then, globally, these medications were ceased to be applied on COVID-19 patients. It's not only in Nigeria.
Last year, you made some adjustments to your procurement processes. So you now purchase drugs directly from the manufacturers. In light of the COVID-19 vaccine, nationalism and using its own drugs, How feasible do you think this is? And when do you think this will be possible for Nigeria?
I'm eager for Nigeria to start manufacturing each drug for HIV, because that will guarantee two things. That will enable NACA and the government of Nigeria to buy this drug at a much cheaper rate. And beside buying it at a much cheaper rate, that will make this drug readily available when they are manufactured. Now, if we place an order today for drugs to be manufactured, it will take about 100 days before these drugs are manufactured. And after these drugs are manufactured, from the time they are handled at the manufacturing site and packaged and taken to where they are going to be either shipped or airlifted to Nigeria, it will take additional 4 to 5 weeks minimum. So if they are airlifted and brought to Nigeria, you can in a minimum of 5 months from the time you place order. But if you are shipping them by sea, you should expect them to come a minimum of 7 months from the time the order is placed. With COVID-19 that has affected logistics globally, the flight and everything, the orders we placed June last year, some of them arrived in February this year. And the orders we placed in October, some of them are just arriving now, and some of them are arriving next month. And of course, there is one that is now slated for July, is due to arrive in July. So if things are manufactured in Nigeria, you know, I'm certain I'm going to get them within the first 2 weeks after they are manufactured. So you can see the lead time will be drastically reduced by half, which means the time I need to wait is the first 100 days to get this drug manufactured. Immediately they are manufactured, I'm going to get them ready, and I'm going to take them to where they are needed.
Currently, why is Nigeria not producing at the moment?
So Nigeria, you see, it is not the business of government, you know, to take over what should belong to private sector, because if government does that, the private sector will now cry and say, aha, government has now taken over. It's supposed to be, you know, a domain for private sector, and we should allow business to flourish. We are calling on the private sector. We are calling on all drug manufacturers in Nigeria to just do the needful. They need to go through the necessary regimen that are expected. And this necessary regimen that are expected is that you need to get a license. You need to be pre-qualified. You need to have the relevant structures, and they need to come and review your structures and review your manufacturing plant and make sure that your manufacturing plant is up to the global standard. Once it is up to that, they will allow you and they will give you pre-qualification. And once you have the WHO pre-qualification, you are allowed to manufacture these drugs here in country. And if you manufacture this drug in country, we guarantee you we are going to buy from you.
Oh, lastly, discrimination of persons with HIV is high. Despite it criminalizes discrimination against persons who have HIV. But in recent times, we've heard news of so many people who are either laid off because of their HIV status, or they are, you know, discriminated against in different forms. What is NACA doing to ensure that at least these people get justice? Or what role does NACA even play in ensuring that these people get justice? I know, yes, that NACA is not a court of law, and NACA is not the Ministry of Justice, but definitely there will be a role that your agency will be playing in the lives of these people. What is that?
Certainly we have a role, and we are playing that role. What we are doing is that, you see, these laws, when they are made, they need to be domesticated. They need to be domesticated at the center and also at the state. So we're getting more states domesticating these laws now. But one thing is, even without the law being domesticated all over the country, if there are cases of stigmatization and discrimination, those cases need to be reported to us. We will make sure that we provide legal expert that will support the individual that is affected. And we will make sure if there are human rights violations, the National Human Rights Commission comes in. Recently, early this year, you know, we signed a memorandum of understanding with National Human Rights Commission just to make sure that the rights and privileges of people living with HIV are protected. And also cases of stigma and discrimination are dealt with. Since we have a law now that can either fine or that can send somebody to jail or combine both, people should open up. Whenever you are discriminated or stigmatized, just because you have HIV, please make sure NACA knows, and NACA will come to your aid.
Dr. Gambo Ali, thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of Punch Live. We've been chatting with Dr. Gambo Ali, the Director General of the National Agency for the Control of AIDS. Spoke to us about the effect of the COVID-19 on the HIV response to the country and other topical issues. So you can go back to our Facebook page to watch the video over again. I'm sure you'll be very much enlightened. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Do enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.